العشر والشفع والوتر والليل إذا يسر هل في ذلك قسم ذي حجر ألم تر كيف فعل ربك بعاد إرم ذات العماد التي لم يخلق مثلها في البلاد وثمود الذين جابوا الصخر بالواد وفرعون ذي الأوتاد الذين طغوا في البلاد فأكثروا فيها الفساد فصب عليهم ربك سوط عذاب إن ربك لبالمرصاد فأما الإنسان إذا ما ابتلاه ربه فأكرمه ونعمه فيقول ربي أكرمن وأما إذا ما ابتلاه فقدر عليه رزقه فيقول ربي أهانن كلا بل لا تكرمون اليتيم ولا تحاضون على طعام المسكين وتأكلون التراث أكلا لما وتحبون المال حبا جما كلا إذا دكت الأرض دكا دكا وجاء ربك والملك صفا صفا وجيء يومئذ بجهنم يومئذ يتذكر الإنسان وأنى له الذكرى يقول يا ليتني قدمت لحياتي فيومئذ لا يعذب عذابه أحد ولا يوثق وثاقه أحد يا أيتها النفس المطمئنة ارجعي إلى ربك راضية مرضية فادخلي في عبادي وادخلي جنتي صدق الله العلي العظيم. أفلح من صلى على محمد وآل محمد.
لله بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين الحمد لله والحمد حقه كما يستحقه حمدا كثيرا الحمد لله الذي هدانا لهذا وما كنا لنهتدي لولا أن هدانا الله اللهم لعن أول ظالم ظلم حق محمد وآل محمد وآخر تابع له على ذلك اللهم لعن العصابة التي جاهدت الحسين وشايعت وبايعت وتابعت على قتلها اللهم لعنهم جميعا ثم الصلاة والسلام على خير خلق الله أجمعين محمد وعلى أهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين واللعنة الدائمة على أعدائهم أجمعين إلى قيام يوم الدين. Knowledge of a thing comes from careful consideration, and experience. And life can present you with complicated things and can present you with challenges and decisions that are not really that easy to make. Well, they're not really that easy to make on your own. Hello, we may pray and we may look into the Quran for some guidance, but still we'll feel confused and uncertain about the direction that we should take. And in these times, it can be helpful to do what? Seek counsel from others. And this is why our discussion tonight is about shura. When we talk about shura or counsel, it's when I get someone's opinion on how to behave or how to deal with something. Their suggestion, their advice, their consultation, or their counsel. This is what shura is. Some people refuse to seek the advice of others and instead like to rush into things, into the dark, without seeing what other people's opinions are. We will talk about what it is, how it's done, and what are the dangers of not seeking advice. Firstly, why is it so important to seek counsel or seek advice? That's the first thing. Why? Amir al-Mu'mineen Ali ibn Abi Talib salawatullahi wa salamu alayhi says, إنما حد على المشاورة. That he's saying that it's been highly emphasized, that seeking counsel has been highly emphasized and highly spoken of. Why? He says, لأن رأي المشير صرف. That when you are getting counsel from someone, and we'll explain who these people are, it's unadulterated. So when it's told you are getting without a filter, how is this so? For example, if I want to marry someone, generally in the public, if you ask somebody, oh, did you see what do you think of Fulan? They'll say, Wallah nas khairu baraki. People are all good, everyone's nice, everyone's righteous, everyone's fun, everyone's good. But why? Because people don't want to do ghibah. They don't want to backbite. They don't want to cause problems, so they abstain. No one gives an opinion. However, when I seek advice, that gets thrown out the window. If I ask about a certain person, if one of the sisters says, so-and-so has asked to speak to me for marriage, what do you think of this person? You can't cover up anymore. You can't say, all right, ya sattar al-uyub. You say, well, guy's a bit of an elbow bender or something like that. It has to be said. You can't just say, oh, no, he likes to drink a bit of soda pop. I got to say what the person actually does. So it's unfiltered. I have to say exactly what that person does. If someone wants to go into business with somebody, I need to tell this person, well, this person's he's not trustworthy. How is he not trustworthy? Well, if you shake his hand, count your fingers when you take them back out. Stuff like that, I have to let them know. Unlike in a general sense where I don't speak about people. But when it comes to counsel, advice is different. Then he says, Amir al-Mu'mineen, the ra'y al-mushiri. He says, صرف ورأي المستشير مشوب بالهوى. Okay? The opinion of the mushir, the counselor, is unadulterated. He says, where is the opinion, ورأي المستشير, of the one seeking counsel, is مشوب بالهوى. It's polluted with what? It's polluted with their own whims. Why? Because you've got too much personal interest vested in it. Think about it. When you are entering some business or you're entering some marriage, like you see a girl, you want to marry her, and you think, wow, she's attractive. Then you these people that become like horses with blinders on. You come and you try and talk to them, they can't see, they become blinded. So for me to say, yes, I want this, I cannot see. So I need someone that is able to give me that opinion. If we take a look at this point, number one is that counsel exists, or counseling people, so we can get opinions and advice from others to give us insight on the decisions that we wish to make. How so? People watch sport, don't they? What happens in sport? Someone scores a try. Okay, did he ground the ball or not? The referee says, all right, from my vantage point, from what I could see, there's no try. So he takes it to the video ref. The video ref has multiple angles and cameras where he can see if the ball was grounded properly, if everything was done correctly. There are other points of views that they can see that the referee may have had an obstacle before them that does not allow them to see what took place. This is what you're doing. You're seeking counsel. You have all these obstructions in front of you that don't allow you to see. And the other person can see these things. And to see the opinion of another person is priceless, something you cannot pay for. You know, when you're in a classroom at school and the teacher puts you in groups. When you're in a classroom, you don't understand why the teachers are putting us in groups. And they say, all right, brainstorm these ideas. And, you know, a lot of people, you know, I work alone. I don't have a partner. Don't want to be with anybody. But you're not realizing why you're there. Because when you're in a group, there are so many avenues opening up. So many ways to see a picture. And that's what they teach you in group work. That you're not alone. There are others that can help you. There are others that can see situations in a manner that you did not see before. That's the first reason. In another narration, Amir al-Mu'mineen, Ali ibn Abi Talib, salawatullahi wa salamu alayh, says, al-istishara, aynul hidayah, wa qad khatara man istaghna bi ra'yih. He says, al-istishara, that seeking, okay, to consult someone in their affairs is guidance in itself. Aynul hidayah. And it is guidance itself. وَقَدْ خَاطَرَ مَنْ اسْتَغْنَى بِرَأْيِهِ. And the person that suffices himself with their own opinion has what? Has endangered himself. You know, how is this? Let's take a look. You've heard the saying, a fool is his own counsel. You know, sometimes you might turn up to the courtroom. You turn up to the courtroom, you sit down, and the magistrate says you don't have any representation and this is a serious offence. Not that I've been in that situation, but that's what they'll say to you. This is a serious offence, you don't have representation. They might adjourn it so you can get proper registration, proper representation. Or even sometimes the magistrate, what will they do? They will guide you on what you can do and what you can't do. They give you like a crash course, you know, a dummy's guide to how to cross-examine and whatever you need to do while you're there. You know, you're the one that actually gets cross-examined anyway. But you being the defendant, they give you that opportunity. And if you've been poorly represented because you represented yourself, they tell you you're going to forgo this right if you continue. This is what will happen. You have that opportunity to get proper representation. You know, sometimes someone says, well, I represented myself, I did well. I say, well, you know, Ted Bundy was a law student and he was very articulate and he was tall and he was good looking. So he had all these going for him, he still got the death penalty. He represented himself, you know. So you might think this is a way for me to get out. But let's look at this. There's another proverb I'll bring in here. When all you have is a hammer, everything looks like a nail. In other words, if you're competent with one thing, you understand one thing, you think this thing is the way to apply everything. If you're familiar with a certain craft, you know, it's the only thing I know, then you may feel that this craft is the answer to everything. And this is one of the biggest problems atheists have. Because atheists use science to answer. A lot of the scientists are atheists. They use science And they'll actually say science is what? They say science is omnipotent, science is all powerful, it covers every facet of your life, and there's many avenues, multiple avenues that science cannot explain. And that's like another subject. But if you go through it, there's a lot of things science is deficient and cannot explain. Simple things like what? Simple things science can't explain. What? Aesthetics. You can't use scientific experiments to be able to work out if someone's more beautiful than somebody else, or someone's better than somebody else. Or even logical truths. You can't use science to explain logical truths. Any mathematics or that. You can't use science to explain, if you do this, you'll be arguing in a circle. There's a lot of things with science that it's not applicable. But this is why atheists fall apart. The reason that they fall apart at this point is because they use science to try and understand the metaphysical side. And even one scientist, Neil deGrasse Tyson, says this. He says, if scientists, and he's an astrophysicist, he says, if scientists leave the religion, because it's metaphysics, it's not physical, it's not material, leave that for faith and religious people, even though he's agnostic, he acknowledges it's not his field to discuss this point. Whereas others are, because they think they know everything. They don't get advice and they run into something and cause problems for themselves. So the second point is, if I only understand one specific thing, I cannot be able to function on all levels. The third thing is, you don't lose anything if you seek advice. You know, as I say, مش خسران شيء. You're not going to lose nothing if you seek advice. If you go see your doctor, and your doctor says, listen, you might need surgery on your elbow, you might need surgery on your knee. Don't think that you're cheating on your doctor if you go get a second opinion. You know, it's not a relationship here. The doctor says you might need surgery, it's a serious thing. Anytime they use the word scalpel, anytime that you're going under the knife, go see another opinion. Seek advice, seek medical advice. What do they tell you? Get a second opinion. There are other surgeons that will see it differently, so I'll seek advice. Even with legal advice, seek other opinions. Why? Because some lawyers could be playing behind your back. You go, for example, for a compensation claim, and the lawyer says, look, they've given us a counter offer, I think you should take it, because the lawyer is getting paid to offer you that counter offer. So you go see, you might need to see other legal advice, and they will be able to shed light on this. So you go see another legal professional. Financial advice. I see multiple financial professionals, and that's their field. And also legal advice, religious advice. Don't go to Ayatollah Google every time you have a problem. These people, they just go onto Google and it says, you give an answer to a religious question. He goes, oh, I don't think so, that's the answer. I looked up in Google. Or someone sent a random fatwa. You've never heard of Photoshop? Well, there's this thing called Photoshop, for those that I've never heard of, that I can pretty much, you know, put Prince Charles and Prince Andrew in a room together, in a bed together, and God knows what they're doing. Not that this may have never happened before, I'm not drawing any conclusions, because Prince Andrew pretty much goes with whatever's on the market. But the thing is, I can do this with this product called Photoshop. So when I need an opinion, even when you're looking at a fatwa, you pick up Risail al-Amaliyya for any marja. There are rules on how you acquire a fatwa. Did you know there's actual rules on acquiring a fatwa? Number one, the fatwa I must acquire it how? Either from the marja himself. Number two, from an authorized text that the marja has written. Number three, from someone that I have itma'nan with the answer. Like someone that I trust will give me an answer that is correct. And someone that's authorized, someone understands religion. Number four, from true, trustworthy people. Okay? Bearing in mind that both these people understand religion. They don't have to be scholars, but they understand religion. And both their opinions are correct. And when I say they're just, they're not people that give opinions. They just throw, oh, this is halal. You know, the ones that just want to be heard. I'll just give you an idea, honestly. I'm in a group with other mashaykh, all speakers. I'll put a mas'ala shar'i, and you look at it, like 37, 38, 40, they've all read the question. When it's fiqh, wait an hour, 2 hours, no one responds. Ask them about anything, they'll all respond. But fiqh, they're all concerned. They throw an answer, they're accountable for it. And you wait a couple of hours before one of them actually answers it. Because I'm too lazy to do the research, I want someone else to do it. It's a bit quicker, but sometimes you end up doing the research yourself because they're too afraid to put up the response. Even a wise person needs counsel. Even people like, for example, take a look at psychologists. Psychologists, if they have problems, do you think they lie on the couch and talk to themselves? They go see other psychologists. People all need other people's opinions. Likewise, when it comes to, for everything, you don't look at race, you don't look at caste, you don't look at where someone's wealth is. You know, this is the biggest problem. People look at a rich person, they'll take their advice on anything. Someone's rich, they could say absolutely anything. Do you remember Elon Musk? That incident happened a couple of months ago where he said Signal. He actually wrote Signal, meaning for people to go download the app, Signal. Then everyone went bought shares in some company called Signal, and his shares just shot up through the roof because Elon Musk was probably stoned at the time. And this isn't slander. He actually, you know, he puffs the magic dragon. But anyway, so Elon Musk writes Signal, okay, and then there's people who start buying shares in Signal. Why? Because Elon Musk said it. Elon Musk is rich. He must know what's right. But the one that gave him sustenance, we never listen to. We just listen to what people like this say. All right. Amir al-Mu'mineen then mentions something very important. How many times have you heard this saying? Is'al al-mujarrab, Muhammad, wala tas'al hakim. Ask someone that's had an experience in something, and don't ask someone, sometimes it's a saying, don't ask someone that is a professional. We're not saying don't ask a professional, but in other words, experience is that important. They say, and it's a Lebanese saying. I don't know, it's also probably an Arabic saying in general, but I've heard it from Lebanese. Amir al-Mu'mineen Ali ibn Abi Talib salawatullahi wa alayhi says, أفضل من شاورت ذو التجارب. That of the best, or the best of the ones that you should ask for advice, are people that have experienced something. Because they can impart knowledge on you that no one else can give you, because they experienced it. They know. Someone has had an illness before, talk to them if you experience that illness. Someone's been somewhere before, talk to them, because they will let you know. They will let you know so you don't go down the same path they went and fall apart. That's why when we tell people to listen to their parents, why do you think we tell people to listen to their parents? Why is it you tell people to get advice from your elders or your parents? Why? Because the proverb says that a young man thinks that an old man is a fool, but an old man knows that a young man is a fool. They know. Why? Because they've been there before. They know what's going to happen. Don't do that, don't do that. You don't listen. All right, I told you not to do it. So when I listen to someone that's been there before, that understands what's happening, I know that they're going to give me advice that is priceless. Advice that I cannot even value in any way whatsoever. Another problem you'll find is when someone calls and says, can you do me istikhara? And they do istikhara on anything without counsel. Before you do anything, at least ask. Before I'm going to do istikhara, number one, I need to research what I'm doing the istikhara for. Do I want to do this thing or not? Number two, I need to ask other people's opinions before I step forward. Number three, I need to know that if this istikhara goes good or bad, am I going to follow the istikhara? How? You get people, a sister or a brother will call you, and a sister or a brother will call you and say, can you do me istikhara? And you say, okay, it's bad. And they say, but I wanted to marry this person. Why'd you do the istikhara? You do the istikhara if you're okay with either way. But if you really want this person, you've done your research, what do you want? Like God to give you an extra thumbs up? You only do the istikhara because you're unsure. I'm unsettled. I've done all my research. I'm unsure. And I'm at a crossroads where I'm willing to go where? Either way. But I do what? Mushawara. I ask people. I ask advice because the people can give you advice that is priceless. Who do I ask for advice? When I want advice in general, who do I turn to for advice in general? Because it's imperative when I'm seeking counsel that I examine the character and the values of the person or persons whom I wish to receive advice from. Isn't that right? Why? Number one, I've got to look at I mentioned their character and their values. But not only their character and their values, also I must factor in, not just character and values, I must factor in that person's motives, okay, when evaluating the merit of their advice. What are the motives of this person? You know, sometimes we're told, there are ruwayat, but I didn't include them because I couldn't find many masadr. I couldn't say these ruwayat were that strong, but I'm letting you know. They're reliable, but I can't say they're too reliable. But they were sound. Where the Imam says, take advice from your enemy to find out what they're thinking so you can prepare for it. You know, because their motives might affect you. But I couldn't find any strength in the chains of these, so I left these, put them aside for the moment. But the idea of getting advice from someone, you need to understand that person's motives. You know, like imagine I go to buy a used car and I want advice on whether I should buy the car. So I ask the owner of the car, should I buy the car? He wants to get rid of it. You say, brother, this is one lady owner, drives it to and from work. Just so happens the lady you're talking to is a big hairy bloke, but it's just one lady owner. And because I want to sell the car, you know, drives it to and from work, never gone over 2,000 RPM. Don't speed, don't do anything in it. That's the person you can advise. Their motive's to sell the car. They're not going to give you the advice that you require. So I need to look at motive. So let's take a look at what Imam al-Sadiq, salawatullahi wa salamu alayhi, says when it comes to counsel. He says, Inna al-mushawara la takunu illa bihududiha. So firstly, let me explain the hadith. That he says counsel should only be sought when it fulfills its terms. And then he says, he mentions what these terms are. They're actually 4 terms. And I want to get to the point, it's a long narration. Okay. The first thing he says, that the person that you must seek the counsel from, otherwise the 4 terms have to be fulfilled, the four types of people. Otherwise, you will get harmful advice rather than good advice. The first thing he says is that the person must be a person of intellect. Someone bifham. That the person you're asking understands. Because if you go ask someone that doesn't know, could you imagine you go ask someone with a defect or something? Imagine someone that just keeps pointing in that direction. You go, which way is the closest service station? And he's continuing. You go, all right, let's keep going. You see someone with something wrong, they're not understanding. Or you see someone that can't even walk on the road because they're so drunk, you'd ask them for advice. Or you see people, their whole life is falling apart and you come and ask them for advice. That everything they do is wrong and you come and ask them for advice. I need to find someone that has intellect. Someone that is intellectual. When we say, what is an intellectual person? Is it someone with a doctorate? Is an intellectual person? Is it someone that has some kind of a degree? Is it someone that knows the dictionary off by heart? An intellectual person is someone that fears God. That's what intellect is. Someone that fears God, knows God and fears God, that's intellectual. The other one is what? You know, someone that has a lot of information stored and doesn't fear God. Do you know what they are? God says in the Quran, مَثَلُ الَّذِينَ حملوا التوراة ثم لم يحملوها كمثل الحمار يحمل أسفارا. Allah says the ones that have the knowledge and do not apply this knowledge, He says, are like a donkey that carries books. Yeah, these people with information, they don't believe in God. How can I say this is a person of intellect? Anyone that doesn't believe in God is not intellectual. Regardless, how can you not believe in God? You lack intellect. So this is not someone that you would seek advice from. Secondly, the Imam says that this person must be not only intellectual and believe in God, they must be someone that is religious. They apply what they believe in as well. They're religious. Behalf Allah. Not someone that you go seek advice from earns dirty money, doesn't earn a halal living. Thirdly, he says that the person must be brotherly and friendly. So someone that, that you can approach, you can talk to, not someone that you can't approach. And fourthly, it must be someone that you know that regards your secret as his secret. Not you go ask, like, what do you think of so-and-so's daughter for marriage? And he says, oh yeah, she's not bad. And then he goes up to the guy and goes, so-and-so was asking about your daughter. Someone's not trustworthy. So these are the four things. I must have someone that has intellect, it means understanding, believes in God, someone that's religious, applies this belief, someone that's approachable, and someone that can keep a secret, doesn't disclose it. The problem, we go back to a person that has a motive or has a vested interest, okay, in what you're asking for or some potential gain will disrupt the decision and they can lead you astray. Okay, now, another thing when it comes to seeking advice, don't seek advice from one person. It's better to seek advice from more than one person. So you get different point of views. It's not that you don't trust the other person. It's good for you. But the biggest problem is when people do this. If you seek advice from somebody and they give you advice, then you ask someone else, don't tell him, well, so-and-so said 1, 2, 3, 4. No. You get the advice, you take the advice, you munch these numbers. You work it out and you see what is required there. Or you could go up to a third person and say, 2 people have given me advice without mentioning their names. What do you think of this? This is my problem. This is their advice. You could do something like that. Now, who is it that I shouldn't seek advice from? Imam Amir al-Mu'mineen Ali ibn Abi Talib alayhi salam mentions certain people. Actually, the narrations of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wa sallam says to Imam Ali alayhi salam in this narration, says, Ya Ali, لا تشاور, he says firstly, جبانا فإنه يضيق عليك المخرج. Okay. The firstly, he says, do not ever ask the advice of a coward. Because what happens, he says, they will confine the way out for you. Why? Because a coward won't take any risks at all. A coward will always, everything seems to be the end of the world. Oh, don't do the, like if you're, say, God forbid, you get involved in an altercation, you end up in a fight. A coward will tell you, go to the police and tell them everything because they think it's the end of the world. And you'll get a charge that you didn't even need this charge for something where you were defending yourself. They're always afraid to tell you what, hold on, before you move forward, be wary of what you're about to say. They always tell you, oh, you're going to get caught. It's the end of the world. This is going to happen. That's going to happen. They don't give you proper advice in order for you to fix a situation. Or someone, they don't tell you to stand up for yourself. They don't tell you, oh, don't stand up, you might lose your job. If you actually take a stance, you might lose this, or you might lose that, or you might lose face. They will never tell you proper advice if they're afraid, they're cowardly. Then he says, sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wa sallam, وَلَا تُشَاوِرْ الْبَخِيلِ فَإِنَّهُ يَقْصُرُ بِكَ. He says, do not ever ask the advice of a miser, someone that's stingy. Why? Think about this. He says here, فَإِنَّهُ, the Messenger sallallahu alayhi wa sallam says, فَإِنَّهُ يَقْصُرُ بِكَ, which means he holds you back from your goal. Why? He's afraid he might advise you on something that might cost him money. Because if I tell him, if you put another investment in this situation you're in, or you do this or that, and you might turn around and say, look, I don't have any money. He goes, oh my God, where have I put myself? So he won't advise you with something because they deal with the situation the way that they are. Like I remember one guy, his father used to say to him, I used to walk from this village to that village so I can save the rate of a taxi. Mind you, the father was filthy rich, but he teaches his son to be stingy. I remember they had a couple once on a television show, and they live in the eastern suburbs, rich people, and they say, you know how much money we save just by making our own coffee every morning and not buying it from a cafe? Can you imagine you're asking advice for someone that won't even buy a coffee? Right, they won't even buy a coffee. How can you ask someone like that for advice? They squirm if they have to pay something. I don't know if you've ever been to a shop and you'll see someone, they go, oh, it's $23, and they're about to pay, and they go, we're going to charge you a 1% surcharge if you use your card. They go, hold on. And I'm thinking, 1% on $23? That's 23 cents. And this person starts looking for the money to save what? 23 cents. My dear friend, the time you wasted looking for that money, you would have made 23 cents. How am I going to get advice from someone like that? 23 cents changes their life. How are you going to ask advice from this person? Then he says, sorry, I didn't finish off. He says, وَلَا تُشَاوِرَ الْبَخِيلَ فَإِنَّهُ يَقْصُرُ بِكَ عَنْ غَايَتِكَ. It will prevent you from reaching your goal. I only read I read it in my head without continuing. Then he says, وَلَا تُشَاوِرْ حَرِيصًا فَإِنَّهُ يُزَيِّنُ لَكَ شَرَحًا. Okay, do not go to someone that's haris. Haris is also like a form of greed. Someone, those people that hoard things. There's people that's nostalgic in everything. They don't like to throw anything out. Someone that just keeps everything, they're covetous for everything. Because they will make this hoarding and greediness seem fair to you. This is good, So when I'm asking for advice from these people, you need to know they're stained with something. There's other narrations where it says, وَلَا تُشَاوِرْ كَذَّابًا. Do not even ask the opinion of a liar. He says, because he's like the mirage. He makes the far things near to you and the near things far to you. Those people, you meet them all the time. They walk into your house. When did you get your house tiled? Yeah, last week. How much did you pay? You got ripped. I know a guy that could have done it for you for this much. You feel like putting another dent in the tiles with his face. But anyway, as he's telling you this, because then when you ask him, listen, I want to get, for example, the rendering done in my house. He goes, yeah, I don't know anyone. The second you mention something, he doesn't know. So that's the only field they don't know. This is a liar. When you're dealing with these types of people, they're liars. They'll keep telling you, I know a guy that would have done this for you for this much money. I know a guy would have done it for you for that. When I mentioned before about asking someone that doesn't know, there's actual hadith. Amir al-Mu'mineen Ali ibn Abi Talib alayhi salam says, استشر عدوك العاقل واحذر رأي صديقك الجاهل. In other words, it's better to ask an enemy of yours, okay, that's wise, than to ask a friend of yours that's ignorant. This is how far I should move away from people that are ignorant. Finally, I'll finish off with this. What is the way to give advice? If someone asks you for advice, how do you give advice? Something very simple. Once again, we turn to A'imma alayhim salam, Al-Imam Ali ibn al-Hussein, Zayn al-Abidin, salawatullahi wa salamu alayhi. He says, حق المستشير إن علمت له رأيا حسنا أشرت عليه وإن لم تعلم أرشدته إلى من يعلم. What is the right of someone that seeks counsel from you or advice? Is that if you have knowledge, you point them in the right direction, that you tell them what the advice is. If you know, impart this knowledge, let them know. Okay? But if you do not know how to advise them, what do? Direct them to who will. This is their right. Ad-dal على الخير كفاعله. Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, when the beggar comes to ask him for some money, he tells him, go to the house of Ali and Fatima, and then he says, الدال على الخير كفاعله. Although I can't give you any money I don't have, but go to that house and they will give you. So sometimes I might not be able to do something for someone, but at least let me advise them of someone that can. Look, I can't help you. I can't help you, but I know someone that can. And you advise them to go to that person. So either you give the person advice if you're capable. Don't give advice to people you don't even know. You know, the Homer Simpson. I gave some people advice even though I gave some people some directions even though I didn't know the way. You can't do that. Give someone directions somewhere you don't. If you don't know, say I don't know. Don't be ashamed to say I don't know. Okay, the angels, did they say we know when God asked them? They said we don't know. If the angels weren't ashamed to say we don't know, how do we find shame to say we don't know? You don't know, you just don't know. You don't know everything. You don't know, you pass it on to someone else. We ask Allah Azza wa Jal to purify our intentions, to make us of those that guide people to what is right, to make us of those that are the solution to the fixing and of this world, and that prepare ourselves for the path of the reappearance of our master, Al-Hujjat ibn al-Hasan al-Mehdi. We ask Allah Azza wa Jal that no one leaves this center without their needs being fulfilled and their prayers being answered. We ask Allah Azza wa Jal to allow us to fast this month that's coming along, Shahr Ramadan Mubarak, and make it a blessed month upon us, and to lift the troubles from all the believers around the world and the pandemic that spread. We ask Allah Azza wa Jal to hasten the reappearance of our master, Al-Hujjat ibn al-Hasan al-Mahdi, arwahuna fidah. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Allahumma salli ala Muhammadin wa ali Muhammad. اللهم كن لوليك الحجة ابن الحسن صلواتك عليه وعلى آبائه في هذه الساعة وفي كل ساعة وليا وحافظا وقائدا وناصرا ودليلا وعينا حتى تسكنه أرضك طوعا وتمتعه فيها طويلا برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين. والأرواح المؤمنين والمؤمنات وإلى أرواح موتانا وموتاكم ولشفاء المرضى وقبول الأعمال. رحم الله من قرأ سورة المباركة الفاتحة مع الصلوات.